Yeah, that's perfect. So, have you noticed like any new kinds of scams with like all the COVID-19 stuff?
Yes, there are a lot of different kinds of scams out there, and they fall in basically into three categories. I think most predominant are the phony treatments, various kinds of cures
Yeah.
and preventative things, and fake test kits, any
Yeah.
aspect of the medical side of things. They include herbal medicines, minerals like silver and copper are touted as having curative properties, dietary supplements, even intravenous injections of vitamin C and D have already been prosecuted by authorities. The various things that either uh, prevent it through boosting one's immune system, or they are advertised as, they don't really work, but they're
Yeah.
advertised as curing or treating COVID. And what all of these promised treatments have in common that the FTC has gone after are that there's no scientific evidence that they work.
It's all a
Um,
placebo for curing
yeah,
COVID. Yes.
exactly. It
Yeah.
makes people
And
feel
people are
that they're
desperate.
doing something exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then, in addition to all the phony medical related scams, there's also some that are directed to Medicare. They are looking for people, mostly seniors, who carry
Yeah.
the Medicare insurance, and they're promising that Medicare will cover the cost of at-home test kits, even masks and sanitizers. And then finally, we're seeing a lot of financial scams that are related to the whole economic um, downturn that has been caused
Yeah,
by
such as
the
like people
pandemic.
losing their jobs and stuff.
Right,
Yeah.
and of course, it mainly related to the news that came out in the spring about Congress's efforts to ameliorate some of these effects by passing the stimulus bill. And so
Oh,
people
yeah.
vaguely knew that they were supposed to be getting these stimulus checks in the mail or coming into their bank account. And so the calls and the emails started that were reportedly from the IRS and other government agencies, telling them that they needed to get their bank account information in order to send them the stimulus check or get other personal information
Mhm.
from them. So that's well, a lot of identity theft occurred
Yeah.
in that particular category. So we see lots of different scams, but generally falling into those categories.
That's so awful. I just don't understand that. Like people at the worst times, they're taking advantage of like vulnerable people.
Exactly, and in
Yeah.
fact, that is when the con artists are really active because they know that they've got a really vulnerable population, as you said.
Yeah. Who do you think like which I guess like category of people do you think is most vulnerable to it? Like do you think like millennials are like desperate and are looking for help and are just believing whatever they see on Instagram or their internet or whatever? Or do you think like the older crowd is just not um in with all the new like technology and what reading the correct stuff on the internet. So who do you think is most vulnerable?
Yeah, I think right now we don't have real data yet,
Yeah.
but going on data that we do have from the past, the FTC collects this kind of data and has closely studied in the past and came out with some surprising results a couple of years ago that showed that that seniors, although they were perceived to be the more vulnerable
Mhm.
category to a lot of scams, were actually less likely to be taken in by a lot of these than millennials, as you said, or younger people. I think it was up to age 29
Mhm.
were the most frequently found to have been victimized by various scams of all kinds. But the per person loss, monetary loss, was quite a bit more with seniors. And it's worrisome with this particular kind of scams that we're talking about, that so many of them are going to target seniors, because it's clear now, the evidence, the science is clear that this particular COVID virus is much more impactful medically for people, over the age of 60 or so. So it stands to reason that they would be targeted, and that they would be likely to be more worried than young people about medical consequences. Now, the stimulus scams and the unemployment, those related, I think that the millennials and younger populations are likely to be targeted and to be vulnerable to those kinds of scams.
Yeah. What do you think from your history, is the most effective way that someone can easily inform others in their community about these kinds of scams? Is it through the media, or what do you think?
I think, the media, as you mentioned, younger people, really all age groups, but especially younger people, communicate and get their news, in fact, almost exclusively now, many do, from social media. So you have to kind of use the media that the particular category of
the audience of
is
people,
using, and try to counteract all of there's on Facebook and Twitter and all different social media, Instagram. There are lots of this misinformation out there, of course, and so counter it through those same channels can be very effective. But what we tried to do is we have a whole program that is online on the FTC website that is all about, it's called Pass It On, to try to get as much as we can to seniors, and then say, tell your neighbor, tell your relatives. I found that's been quite effective.
Yeah, I think that's great, because it just everything varies with the different age groups and stuff, what ways you can easily reach out to them. I think that's awesome, libraries, book clubs. I mean, it might be a little hard now just because of all social distancing and stuff, but there's still other ways for seniors or people who don't really look at social media to figure it out. And I mean, there's always the news, but sometimes it really just takes peer education. I think, that's what you said, peer-to-peer education. You just have to tell your neighbor, tell your friend, tell them to tell this person, and I think it'll definitely get the message across.
That's right.
Yeah, so I hope that I am reaching the intended audience. But thank you again. So I think you're very well educated, and I think you answered every question amazing, and I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to meet with me over Zoom and stuff. And I just hope that no one you know gets scammed. I hope that both you and I can educate people and just peer-to-peer stuff, and that